It's a long way to the top. If you want to rock and roll, you want to rock and roll? Riding on the highway, going to a show. Stopping on the byway, playing rock and roll. Getting round, getting stoned, getting beat up, getting boned, getting high, getting shook. As for your folks, it's harder than it looks. It's a long way to the top if you wanna rock and roll. It's a long way to the top if you wanna rock and roll. If you think it's easy to do one night stands, try being a rock and roll band. It's a long way to the top if you wanna rock and roll.
Good evening, race fans. I'm your host, Caden Reif, and welcome back to another installment of the 2008 NASCAR Coca-Cola Cup Series here from Loudon, NASCAR on ESPN for the LENOX Industrial Tools 300. Bit of flat track action at the Magic Mile here today for race number 5 of 36 of this new season. As we take you to the racetrack in just a moment for your starting lineup, we take a look back. Jimmie Johnson, last week's winner in dominating fashion in the Miller High Life 400 to conclude race number 4, already his second win on the season. This week, it'll be Ryan Newman in the 38 car qualifying on pole here today. And to his outside, it'll be Elliott Sadler in the 83 for Red Bull. Looking down the rest of the starting lineup here today, starting in the 3rd position, Robbie Gordon in the 31 car. Going to be in 3rd with Tony Stewart to his outside in 4th. J.J. Yaley, another top 5 qualifying spot for the 10 team. They start 5th with Juan Pablo Montoya in the 6th position. 7th goes to last week's winner, Jimmie Johnson, with his 2nd victory of the season. And Kevin Harvick will start to his outside in the 20 in 8th. 9th will be Greg Biffle in the 16, and DJ Kennington, the 81 car, will round out the top 10 here tonight. Denny Hamlin in the 25 car this week. He sits in 11th. That great run in the Daytona 500 to open up the season, making his 2nd Cup Series start here today. 12th place goes to Jason Leffler in the 00. Ricky Hendrick will start in 13th place, with Matt Kenseth in the 17 to his outside in 14th. Kurt Busch will be in P15. And Jeff Gordon to his outside in the 16th spot. Inside lane 17th is Scott Riggs in the 57, and Casey Kane will start this race in the 18th position. Clint Boyer, P19 in the 4, and Casey Mears rounds out the top 20. Marcos Ambrose will be P21, in the 13 car, and Bobby Labonte will be side-by-side with him in 22nd. Scott Steckley, 23 car, P23, and Jay McMurray from the 24th position. Andrew Ranger, a rookie, in 25th. Brad Keselowski will be in the 26th spot. 27th place is John Andretti, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the 28th position. Scott Wimmer, Daytona 500 winner, is 29th. 30th is Boris Said. 31st place is going to be Jeremy Mayfield, and Todd Cleaver in 32nd. Carl Edwards will start this race in 33rd. Kyle Busch to his outside in 34th. Shane Meal, the rookie, in 35th. And Chad McCumbee starts this race P36. Casey Atwood will be in 37th. and David Rudiman in the 38th position. Eric Norris, P39. Todd Bodine will be in the 40th spot in the 77. And rounding out the field, the back row will be Morgan Shepherd in the 41. And Carl Long with his team MBM making their first ever Points Race Cup Series start in the 42nd position. 42-car field. As always, here from New Hampshire, as we take you momentarily trackside for the most famous words in motorsports, the command here from the LENOX Industrial Tools 300.
Drivers, start your engines!
Field roars to life as we get set to go, rolling off from the starting grid. It's Ryan Newman in the 38 car, going to lead everybody here through turns 1 and 2 and onto the racetrack for today's race. 38 car takes the pole here today. New Hampshire, always a difficult track to make a pass at. This track is very racy, but despite that, no clear advantageous line at this place. Sometimes the top prevails on defense. Sometimes you get that move done down on the bottom side. You want to be down low when you're by yourself. But being side by side isn't as much of a death sentence as you might think at this racetrack. And side-by-side battles are sure to be aplenty here today, as Ryan Newman will lead everybody into turns 3 and 4. Been a rough start for Newman in this championship. 37th in the points. Does already have a pole to his name this year. Makes it one more here today. Him and Sadler out of turn 4 to the green flag. And we are underway here from New Hampshire. The LENOX Industrial Tools 300 gets going here in New Hampshire. Already you see it there in turns 3 and 4. It was 3 wide for the lead coming out of turn number 2. Robbie Gordon trying to get up the inside of Ryan Newman. It'll be the outside pole sitter, Elliott Sadler, taking the opening lap lead here in New Hampshire as they battle side by side behind the 83. Now you see that top side, and again 3 wide up front as they are continuing to get racy up at the top of this table. Robbie Gordon down on the inside. Tony Stewart trying to go around the outside of everybody. He can't quite pull it off. And they are still 3 wide through turns 3 and 4. Look at this battle on the front stretch. Stewart leads that lap on lap number 2. Robbie Gordon still trying to fight up the inside. Stewart looking to go around the very top of this racetrack, trying to get clear for the lead out of turn number 2, and he does just that, the 42 out into the race lead. You see just how frequently they like to go side by side at this racetrack. It is so hard to get away from the battles here in New Hampshire. Once again, that top side, you see it work just a little bit for these guys side by side, especially in turns 1 and 2. It's real nice to get off of the corner on that outer lane in turn 2. Elliott Sadler was proving that, but ends up getting split 3 wide again is the 83. Got his teammate Juan Pablo Montoya in the 84 to his outside as Newman trying to recover from losing the lead off the initial lap. He moves side by side for 3rd between the 84 and himself. It is just so hard to pull away from the pack at this racetrack. New Hampshire with the long straightaways, of course, couple of flat mile-long racetracks back-to-back, Milwaukee and then this. So hard to get into the corners here. There's even less grip at this racetrack than there is at Milwaukee. And it's usually advantageous to be following someone. It is hard to lead at a racetrack like New Hampshire. But you can see the contrast of this track. A little shorter straightaways, a little wider corners. Adds up to a lot more battling up front. And Robbie Gordon in the 31 is going to try to take it up the inside of Stewart for the race lead in turns 3 and 4. But Stewart holds him off and clears him down the front stretch, and the 42 retains the race lead. Montoya going around the outside. We see so much of that at this racetrack. When you end up on that outside, you actually manage to gain a lot of time on the guys who are ripping the bottom in front of you, especially if you can just nail that turn 2 exit. That's what Montoya did. But once again, that inner line working very well in 3 and 4 as it usually does at this racetrack, and Robbie Gordon will hold Montoya off for the second position. Now Kevin Harvick is going to try to make it a challenge for P3. Side by side for second now as Montoya gets up the inside of the 31 of Robbie Gordon. Montoya really trying to drive it in and force Gordon up the racetrack, give him an advantage on the bottom, even playing field as they head down the backstretch, run from the 31, but Montoya will stay side by side with Robbie Gordon here in turn 3. Stewart still trying to fend everybody off on that inside line. Montoya putting the pressure on the early race leader. Robbie Gordon still a threat on that outside lane as well. Made that top work beautifully there in turns 3 and 4. Almost clear Montoya again, but still no clear winner in this battle for P2, but Robbie Gordon, again, with that big step on the throttle move in the middle of turns 1 and 2, is going to pull to the outside of Stewart for the race lead. Newman almost made it 3 wide, couldn't quite find the lane to do it, and Stewart is going to clear the 31 of Robbie Gordon for the lead anyway. Starting to single file out a little bit out front, but still so tight bumper to bumper. Sub 3 wide back there is Elliott Sadler, who's found himself stuck in the middle pretty much all day. Still in that middle lane. No move just yet. And he falls back into that inside line. You're getting a good look at just how racy this track is. Just the first 15 laps of this race, we've seen so much movement and so many people on all different parts of this racetrack trying to find grip. It's the number one thing that the drivers talk about when they come to this place, is trying to find which lane has the grip that can work to your advantage. Montoya shows the nose underneath of Robbie Gordon for second place. And once again, side by side for P2. See if Montoya can hang on that bottom here. No, Robbie Gordon instead goes underneath of Tony Stewart for the race lead. Big cutback move by the 31 there into turn 3, but to no avail. And again, Stewart staying clear in that lead. Montoya forces Robbie Gordon up a second time. Gordon tried to get down to the bottom there going into turn 3, expecting Montoya to yield maybe, but he didn't do it. And it just gets to this point of stagnation. We're seeing so much of this over the course of this race. All this side by side, but not a lot of movement over the last 10 or so laps. And once again, Robbie Gordon clear for second place. One driver who's moved forward quite a significant amount is that 81 of DJ Kennington. Just found a lane on that bottom side, made up maybe 5 or so positions since the start of this race. And has snuck his way into this top 5. Gordon still up the back bumper of Stewart, who has not been able to pull away in that lead. Kennington looking for P3 now in that 81 car as he continues his march forward. Side by side between the two Gibbs teammates for fourth as the top three once again single file. Stewart starting to pull a little bit of a gap, something we haven't seen yet today. And Robbie Gordon maybe starting to back up this pack behind the leader just a little bit, but Montoya has tried many a time to get past this 31 and has not been able to do it just yet. Saw significantly more incidents and yellow flags in the GNS race on Saturday. I believe there were 3 or 4 caution flags over the course of that race. Though Robbie Gordon gets tagged by Montoya, the 84 getting a little impatient here. Right as I started to talk about the fact that this race has been clean and green so far, Montoya up the back bumper of the 31, almost turned him coming out of turn 4. But you gotta imagine impatience is starting to build, and Kevin Harvick's gonna get spun by his teammate into the inside wall. Gets back going, rejoins traffic. Racetrack, I believe, is still green. And it is. Contact between Harvick and Kennington. As we get a look at the contact that just resulted in the 20 of Harvick in the inside wall. Yeah, you see Harvick cut down in front of his teammate there just a little bit, and Kennington shows the nose, and Harvick kind of a little loose in front of him, and Kennington just, I believe he misjudged it, might have thought he was clear. And Harvick takes a pretty hard hit into the inside wall. I would have thought he went all the way around, but managed to hold on to it, but now he's got a very damaged race car. So racetrack stays green despite the incident. Montoya, again, thinking about trying to take that spot away from Robbie Gordon for second. Seeing that single file now up at the front of the field, top 5, maybe even the top 10, started to single file out just that little bit, stop battling so much, and you see Montoya again trying to go underneath of Robbie Gordon here for P2. He's been trying to get this position for a good 15 laps now, but again, Robbie Gordon on that top. It's got to be infuriating if you're that 84. Montoya has just not been able to complete that pass. As we mentioned coming into this race, it is such a hard track to pass at. You see so many side-by-side battles, but the field likes to stagnate out here just a little bit because of how difficult it is to make that overtake. But once again, you see Montoya going up the inside of Robbie Gordon. Might be able to hang the nose underneath him going into turn 3, and he will. Johnson taking an attempt at Newman for the 4th spot behind these two, and he completed that pass with ease. Again, Gordon on that outside trying to fend off Montoya, and for yet another time, Montoya unsuccessful in that attempt to take P2. And again, it probably grows even more infuriating for that 84 car, given that he just saw Jimmy Johnson take care of Ryan Newman in basically one set of corners. And he has tried that very move in that very spot in turn 3 probably a good 5 times at this point. Maybe even more than that, and still no success. Trying to take that 2nd spot and maybe get first dibs at passing this 42 Stewart for the race lead. And you had seen the impatience earlier when he got into the back bumper of the 31 of Robbie Gordon in turn 4. Almost spun him around. I think that frustration might be starting to show. Nearing a third of this race completed here in the LENOX Industrial Tools 300. Be lap number 30 of 90. And 3 wide behind the top 3 as Jimmy Johnson getting split up the middle here. Kurt Busch down on the bottom. Ryan Newman all the way on the top. Newman unsuccessful on the outside. Now it's Kurt Busch and Jimmy Johnson for P4. This is the spot where that top likes to work. You see Johnson able to drive it in, pin Busch to the bottom. And he should clear him with ease coming out of turn 2 here, and he will. Again, Montoya showing the nose towards turn 3. Couldn't quite make the move stick. Robbie Gordon getting a little aggressive for this race lead here. Haven't seen anybody side by side with Stewart in a little while now. And you have to imagine Gordon's a little antsy to try it out. Stewart leads the field out of turn 4 here for a third of this race completed. 30 down and 60 to go. See, another new member, Casey Kane, has joined this top 10 in the 12 car. Putting together a solid run after a bit of a rough start to the season for that 12. But as this field has now stagnated just a little bit, take a look at some of the surprise names who have had a bit of a rough start to this season. As we mentioned, the pole sitter, Ryan Newman, 37th. In the championship standings heading into today. And that is important, of course, after race number 5 in both series. Last year's owner's points go null, and in this 2008 season, the owner's points from this year will become the standard for provisionals following this week. Excuse me. So, Ryan Newman having a good run today is mighty important. You think of other drivers who were high up in the standings last year having a rough start. Brad Keselowski sub 30th, Matt Kenseth, despite the great start with that Bud Shootout win, he is in 32nd. So a lot of drivers with important names who might be down there in the standings. Stewart, the race leader right now, is 28th. Edwards in the 19 car is 29th. Couple of drivers having some pretty rough starts to this 2008 season. Of course, it has only been 4 races, so it's not surprising to see a couple of outlier names down there at the bottom of the table who were having a great year in 2007, struggling to get off on the right foot this year. But Jimmy Johnson, that 48 car, who has just proven to once again maybe have the stuff to beat here today, has picked off position after position like nobody else in this field. And you see just how good of a car it is just by the fact that he hangs with guys on the bottom. But even still, Robbie Gordon still able to take advantage on corner exit of turn 2, and he holds second place. But Jimmy Johnson passed Montoya and into third. First lap car is a little bit up the road for the race leaders. That is Carl Long in the 66 for his new team, MBM. Making their first point start here today. Of course, as we've gone over, attempted the Daytona 500 this year, did not qualify for that race, and making their first start in the Cup Series here today at New Hampshire, qualified for this race on speed. Jimmy Johnson again. I'm going to try for that second position on Robbie Gordon in turns 1 and 2. We'll see if he can make something happen this time. But again, might have just gotten checked up by the back bumper of Stewart a little bit there coming out of 2 and unable to make that pass. Kurt Busch underneath of Montoya in the 84 there, leaving turn 4. Going to try to filter the 84 all the way down to 5th. Still side by side for that position as they head down the backstretch. First pit window likely looming for the leaders here, and just as I mentioned that, it's looking like Robbie Gordon's going to be the first taker, that 31 car. Going to hope to hit the undercut here against Stewart, and he is the only pitter in the top 10. Elliott Sadler, who had fallen out of the top 10 since the start of this race, is the first car to follow Robbie Gordon in. So the undercut on lap number 39, taking 40 for Robbie Gordon as the caution flag is out. And that turns into a disaster for the 31 car trying to do something different. Yellow flag flies. Get a look at what caused this first yellow flag. To be quite honest, I'm not sure what the source of the yellow flag was. Must have been a debris caution. Right as these guys brought it down pit road, yeah. Could have thought it would be that 5 car. But the 5 was making clean pit entry, so the caution comes out. And that will allow everybody to bring it down pit road here. Though looking like a couple might stay out long for extra fuel. Interesting strategy call from the 01, the 81, the 24. But Stewart will lead the race leaders down pit lane. A really rough break for that 31 of Robbie Gordon, who is looking like he might have the strategy move to try and take over that lead, but caution comes out. And no incident on the racetrack, so it was definitely a debris yellow. Could have potentially been from Harvick's 20 hitting that inside wall earlier, and NASCAR threw the yellow flag, but 4 tires and fuel for Tony Stewart, who leaves pit road in the lead. So 42 car should have the lead, providing that the drivers who stayed on the racetrack are going to pit in here. It was Busch, Kennington, Jeff Gordon, who stayed out, as well as Eric Norris in the 51. Looking like Busch should bring it down pit road here, and he will. So it'll be Tony Stewart in the race lead on the restart here. 5 and everybody else involved will get the free pass here from New Hampshire. Lap number 43 this time by for Stewart. Under yellow flag, it's NASCAR and ESPN from the LENOX Industrial Tools 300, and we will be right back. Back from intermission here from New Hampshire, as Tony Stewart in the 42 car is going to be your race leader after some of the fascinating strategy moves that we saw. But weirder still on the strategy front is the 31 of Robbie Gordon, who was going to be free pass ahead of the leaders, elected to come down pit road a second time under that yellow flag. So the 31 is going to be the one and only car a lap down at the moment. So Gordon, who was in the second position with a chance to maybe leapfrog Stewart for the lead, he's going to end up 42nd -1. Tony Stewart, 42, is your race leader. Jimmy Johnson moves into the second position in the 48 car. Ryan Newman will be in third. Juan Pablo Montoya in fourth, and Casey Kane into the fifth position. Here on the restart, pace car going to peel in lap number 45 just prior to halfway. Here in Loudon, as Stewart leads the field to the box, and we are green. Back underway here in the LENOX Tools 300. Routine start for the leaders as they head through turns 1 and 2 and back up to speed. Stewart now trying to hold off Jimmy Johnson, who is having a lightning fast start to this 2008 season. Already has 2 wins to his name this year. We've mentioned it time and time again. Jimmy Johnson, winningest driver in the series since his Cup Series debut. And looking for the lead on the front stretch here. And he's going to dive it into turn 1, trying to get past that 42. This isn't the spot you might want to make that move, but Johnson doesn't seem to mind. Side by side between the race leaders as they leave turn 2. Stewart trying to clear him. Let's see if Johnson can drive it down into 3. No, 42 remains the leader. But Johnson and Stewart, since 2002, the 2 winningest drivers in the Coca-Cola Cup Series. But Johnson, the winningest driver by far, over 10 more wins than second place Stewart. He's won 32 times in his career. Trying for one more than that. Took a look going into turn 3. Couldn't get the nose there. And here you see on fresh tires, this track's racecraft starting to pick up. Side by side for third, it's between Newman and Juan Pablo Montoya, who's trying to go around the outside. Johnson under Stewart out of 2. Did he get the bite to stay there? He did. And this is the spot where you want to be on the bottom. Let's see if Johnson can pull it off. Isn't going to be so simple that time. They leave turn 4. Johnson's going to lead his first lap of the night, just barely. Can he make this move stick? Stewart trying to hang tight on the top. Still side by side as they head down the backstretch. Johnson nose ahead out of 4. Half a car length, maybe more. Can he clear him going into turn 1? He's got him clear for the moment. Does Stewart bite back on the exit? No. New leader Jimmy Johnson. .48 car already. 2 wins in 4 races to start off this season. And he is starting to scamper away with the lead. You think back to that start that Johnson had in 2006, 2 years prior, that very same season where he won, you guessed it, races 2, 4, and 5 to open up the first 5 races of the season with 3 wins. It was that season where he was considered maybe the strongest contender for that 2006 Cup Championship before suspensions and his own undoing took him out of the potential Cup Championship. I'd like to get a look back at where that dust came from. I think somebody might have gotten into the wall. And that was the case. It was Eric Norris in the 51 machine who got the fence there. Appears to have maybe gotten some help. Yes, he did, from Jamie McMurray in the 40, who's already having a frustrating day. No caution. Damage to the right side of Norris. But it was in that 2006 season that Johnson opened up the first 5 races, winning exactly the races he could be primed to win in this 2008 campaign. It was then race 2 at then Homestead, race 4 at Milwaukee, and race 5 was at Bristol that season. And this year, Johnson trying to win at Loudon for what would be his 3rd win of the season in 5 races. All in the same rounds in that year where he looked like he very well could have won that championship had it not been for the suspensions that he ended up serving that season. But Montoya, who has taken away that 2nd spot, is saying, now wait just a minute. There's still over 30 laps to go in this race, and Montoya is going to challenge the 48 for the lead. He's got to get into one hard if he wants to stay in this battle. And Johnson appears to have maybe overdriven a little bit, or at least outdriven him, but maybe messed up the center of the corner just a little bit. Montoya's just got to stay there, headed into 3. But he is unable to do so. But the top 2 pulling away just a little bit. Down the back stretch, Johnson, Montoya, then Stewart, then Newman. As Montoya again in turn 3 is going to try the move to the bottom side. But Johnson, even better on the outside lane that time by, holds him off. Huge battle as Newman gets sideways in front of Kane, checks him up. This is 3 wide almost. For the 5th position as Jason Leffler has come out of nowhere and trying to join the top 5. And he is in the top 5 at the moment, side by side with Newman for 4th. Edwards has also joined the fray up front. JJ Yaley, who's been an outside top 10 contender today, he's in the mix as well. A lot of drivers who are in need of a good run in this race have found their way into the mix. Through 1 and 2, Johnson still with Montoya up his back bumper. Montoya has never won on a standard oval. He has just 1 career win to his name in his rookie season last year, an impressive win at Talladega. Had a stellar rookie campaign in that 84 car, looking to bounce back with a solid sophomore season. For a Red Bull team that has a lot of faith in his ability as a stock car driver. but he's got a Herculean effort to pass the man with the inverted number in front of him. But he's still looking like he's got the speed to do it. Montoya has been up the back bumper of this 48 for the last 5-10 laps. But Johnson maybe starting to run away from him right as I said so. But we are now inside 30 laps to go here from New Hampshire. And what a better time but to let you listen to some engines and nothing more. I'll shut my trap for a bit. It's NASCAR and ESPN, and we will take you to crank it up. That was a McDonald's visor cam on board the 19 of Carl Edwards in the 8th position, and you have seen it. Juan Pablo Montoya, the 84 car, has taken over the race lead here in New Hampshire with just 20 laps to go. The 84 now out to the race lead. Johnson not quite able to capture that win just yet. And Montoya has shown some muscle and overtaken his number invert counterpart for the lead. Saw how long he was sitting on the back bumper of that 84 for first, or excuse me, for that 48 for the lead, and has taken over that first position. A side-by-side battle up in front of Tony Stewart, who still sits in the 3rd position. Montoya, in his time, his limited time in NASCAR over the course of his years here, First with Ganassi in the Xfinity Series, and then Red Bull this year and last, the AT&T Series, has mentioned this. He said, New Hampshire, it drives the most like a road course of the short tracks on this calendar. The only track that is an oval that drives closer to a road course is Pocono. And I personally love this place. And Montoya proving why he has ran so well here in the past. Running up front, but Jimmy Johnson has yet to yield. And is still filling the mirror of that Sprint 84. Might have just given him a nudge going into turn 3. Top two have ran away from Tony Stewart in the third position, who's dropping back into the clutches of Newman in fourth. Leffler rounds out your top five. And it's Kane sixth. Yaley seventh. Eighth is Edwards. Ninth is Kenseth. And Greg Biffle, the current points leader, sits in the 10th position at the moment. Closing up on the conclusion of this race. Should be one more pit stop looming for fuel and fuel only. Around 10, maybe 5 to go. It's going to be tight at the end of this race, but the battle for the win on the racetrack has yet to end. Johnson still hasn't found his way past that 84 just yet. Montoya putting together some masterful defense. 15 to go is your count now. We've seen this battle for the lead rage on over the course of this race. It's been an entertaining one, to say the least. Montoya just 14.5 miles from his second Cup Series win. Montoya with a great run out of turn 2 and down the backstretch that time. Pulled away from Johnson just a little bit, but the 48 reeling him back in with a nice 3 and 4. Race still far from over. And I'm sure that final pit stop is looming in the minds of both the crew chiefs and the drivers in the cars. Montoya's just got to get to the end of this thing. And he's looking like he very well might have the car to do it, but Johnson still hasn't quite disappeared in his mirror just yet. Montoya might have the slightly better overall speed right now, but Johnson is pushing the limit right now to try and hang with that 84. Down into 1. Stewart still lurking if the leaders get into each other. We've seen some contact once today already between the 81 and the 20, the two teammates. Johnson up to the back bumper of Montoya. This isn't the end of the racetrack that you might want to make that move, but we'll see if Johnson really cares. He doesn't. 10 to go at the line, and Jimmy Johnson underneath of Montoya, side by side for the race lead. But Montoya, a beautiful exit out of turn 2, and he holds the 48 off. Nine to go. Montoya trying to run and hide. Johnson trying to hold his ground and keep that 84 big out of the window. First pitter and first few pitters. Shane Meal and plenty of others hit pit road. It's a fuel-only stop for all of them. And hand out the window, Jimmy Johnson is going to be forced to blink first. He's going to have a longer pit stop here. Little bit more fuel is going to be necessary. Biffle got held up pretty hard there by the guys heading into pit road. Racetrack is still green. No debris issues this time. But Johnson, the leader, headed in. Gonna have to hope for a clean pit exit here and a short fuel window. And he had to wait for the 66. That was Carl Long. Little bit of a hold, but the race leader Montoya is in for his fuel. Kurt Busch will stay out to take the lead. No idea if anyone's going to have enough fuel to make it. I would doubt it, but we'll see. Montoya in. And here comes the race off of pit road. And he had to wait a pretty long time for Robbie Gordon himself. Here comes Johnson into turn one. And Johnson's got him beat. The 48 retakes the lead. Busch, the leader, is on pit road, and the race falls right back into the hands of Jimmy Johnson. Lap car of Norris is going to leave pit road right in front of Montoya on top of that. 84 going to drive around his outside, but it is a comfortable lead for Johnson off of pit road. 5 to go for the 48. And Johnson, who dueled with Montoya lap after lap, you thought he might have had it won. Johnson had to hold just a moment for Carl Long, but Montoya had to wait for Robbie Gordon, the 31, the only car who had been lapped today. Thanks to that bizarre strategy call. And Montoya held for several extra seconds, and that is ultimately what cost him the chance at winning his second career cup race. Three to go for the 48 of Jimmy Johnson. Montoya second, Kane all the way up to third. Leffler in P4, Tony Stewart finds himself fifth. Newman is in sixth. Edwards seventh. Eighth belongs to Yaley. Ninth is Biffle, and Kenzen rounds out the top 10. 2 to go. Johnson's just got to have no problems here in the final 2 laps of this race, and he is home free. Over a 2-second lead for the 48 of Jimmy Johnson after that pit cycle. No contest. And out of turn 4, Jimmy Johnson, all by himself. White flag waves one more time around for the 48. It was the same story in 2006, opening up that season with a bang. New coat of paint, the same one he's carrying this year. Through 3 and 4 for the final time. He's inevitable, folks. Out of turn 4 this time. 2, 4, 5. Jimmy Johnson wins race number 3 of 2008. Already a trio of victories for the Lowe's 48. And as we head into the off week, Jimmy Johnson, ahead of the Aussie month, takes home yet another victory here in New Hampshire. Montoya, second. Kane in third. Jason Leffler, career day in fourth. And Tony Stewart rounds out your top 5. Great race all the way around, and Jimmy Johnson, the 48 car, takes home his 3rd win of the season. And in a mirror image to the 2006 campaign, Johnson, the 48 car, inevitable here in New Hampshire. And it is his 33rd career NASCAR Cup Series win. And he wins it here tonight. That'll do it for coverage here from New Hampshire in the LENOX Industrial Tools 300. Next time out, it'll be race number 6 as we start the first of 2 overseas. We head to Aussie land for the Calder Oval and the Samsung 600K. But I've been your host, Caden Wright. It's been a pleasure to have you along as always. We'll see you next week, and have yourself a good one.